You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Real quick, though, and again, I mentioned off the air, I'm not going to kind of hold you to the fire on this one since it's something brand new, but I think it's fairly easy to absorb here. We go to spring of 2023. A London banker reached out to some of his friends and said, hey, you want to help me take down the Texas lottery? And this guy had realized there was a coming drawing in the Texas lottery that was getting close to $95 million as far as the payoff goes. And then he realized it's a 5-number drawing, so that means there's only 25.8 million potential number combinations. And so he spent $25,800,000 and bought 99.3 of the potential winning numbers, and they won. So they hauled out like 57 plus 57 million on the score.
Right, the margin.
Right,
so,
and they went so far as to rent business space, become official lottery dealers, so they would get those ticketing machines, and they would run those for like 3 days straight. What it says, like 100 tickets per minute being spit out. No, I'm sorry, 100 or more tickets every second. And they had like friends and the kids of these friends all running these numbers and purchasing. So they purchased them all legally.
Okay.
And it talks about here how it's totally legal, but it's one of those things you don't want to brag about because then you put up red flags, and suddenly someone in the company put out a press release talking about what they did, and now the great state of Texas has officially begun asking questions and alleging that the state's players are defrauded by this group. And the defendants, they say, have not yet responded to allegations.
Okay, so the claim that they have defrauded the Texas taxpayers, so this is a Texas state lottery.
It's Texas
right?
State
We're not talking Powerball or Mega Millions here. This is the Texas state lottery, and this company came in. Are there, when you purchase a ticket, do you have to assert certain things like I am a Texas resident? Can anybody, could I go to Texas today, drive down there, buy a ticket and come back?
The laws there are the same as our state laws. Yeah, you can buy a ticket, and as long as you purchase it there in the state, you're good to go.
Well, listen, it certainly violates the spirit of what the lottery is. And keep in mind the whole
spirit, right? Or I akin it to counting cards in Vegas. Frowned upon. It can get you kicked out of a casino, banned from a casino, but it won't land you in jail. Yeah. They can't take your money.
Yeah, I don't know that they've committed any kind of, certainly any criminal act.
Outsmarted people.
Yeah, that's it. And keep in mind, the whole point of a lottery, a state-funded lottery or a state-supported lottery, is to try to raise public funds for some public purpose, right? So in Colorado, we use a lot of that lottery money for the
open space.
The open space, right? So what do you want if you're the state of Colorado? You want more people to play. That's why they put millions into advertising lottery, and it is so that people go and buy their $1 lottery ticket. Just the whole premise I've had since I was a little kid. If I can get everybody in the world to just pay me $1, I would be financially set. Mm-hmm. I'd have billions of dollars.
Dude, that's actually the format now for people who are online, like OnlyFans and stuff like that. Man, if I have 1 million fans and everyone gives me $1 a month.
That's right. That's a subscription.
Doing all right. You're doing all right.
So have they filed? It's the Attorney General, probably. The Texas State Attorney General has filed some kind of.
They fired questions to the company, and the company has not responded yet.
Okay, but they haven't filed a lawsuit against the company. Yeah, I think what they're trying to do right now is find out if they've done anything that could be the predicate for a lawsuit. The only thing that
could be greasy, because we're not going way deep into the laws of the Texas lottery, but purchasing or becoming a lottery distribution site and just printing your own tickets. That might be sketchy.
That's what I'm wondering.
It was all legitimate, though. It's not like they were fudging these things. They literally paid $28,800,000 to purchase every single ticket.
Okay, so then the question is, who was it who won the ticket? Was it one of their shills? Like somebody that they had put on the payroll
under a corporation. So they basically set up an LLC to receive all the money, like you would if you didn't want to be.
Right, I understand, but who they said they had friends and family who were pulling the ticket.
I'm not sure how the divvying would go.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not even getting to the divvy point. Like, I am getting to the point, like, who is the one who physically obtained that winning ticket? It came out of one of these licensed machines, right?
Dude, could you imagine the logistics of, hey, Doug, we won. You need to find me a ticket with a 5, 7, 21, 13, 48. Like that's another 5 days of searching through 28 million lottery tickets. The whole thing is it's overwhelming as far as the logistics of it all. I mean, just the amount of work they put in.
Right. Well,
they should get the money.
Well, See, they may get the money this time, but they're going to. Texas is going to change how they do the lottery. I guarantee you, they're going to put some regulations in place.
One of these stories you hear all the time. These guys are going to ruin it for everybody else.
Well, they are, but keep in mind these machines, and I don't know if they're programmable, so they can now spit out a 7-digit sequence. Is the digit if the number is 142, right? Okay, let's just say the number is 14. It's got two discrete, like there's a 1 in it and a 4. Are those each 2 digits? Is that a single digit? Is 14 a single digit? I keep forgetting. My son's in 4th grade. I think he's learning this right now, and he needs to teach me. But there's a numeral, and then there's a digit, and
it made me think too. It's like, so you'd have to do.
So my point is Texas is about to bite off a very expensive infrastructure overhaul, so that their lottery system can now go from an easily manipulate's not the right word, but gameable lottery system to one now where they're churning out, even adding that 6th number increases the factor but also reduces the chance somebody would win. And I mean, it's just it obviously violates the spirit of what they're trying to do. And nobody likes that, because if you can't compete against the billionaires who are coming in, financiers who would come in and turn this into a business model of buying lottery. But lottery is
it seems like the norm, man. Rich guys win.
They always call it and listen, they say the lottery is a tax on the poor, but I don't know anybody, frankly, who doesn't play lottery. I mean, especially when those numbers get up there, we're all buying tickets.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
So the way that a deferred sentence works in Colorado, and it is not going to be available to everybody. So I think one of the first things somebody, if they're charged with a crime, and a DUI is a criminal traffic offense. I mean, it's a full-on, it's usually a misdemeanor crime. You can get to a felony level if you've got really aggravating circumstances. You've got a laundry list of DUIs on your prior record. But a deferred sentence can come up in a DUI situation. It could come up in non-traffic related crimes too. It's really up to the discretion of the district attorney, the charging prosecutor, to decide if they want to put that option on the table. And what a deferred sentence is when the defendant, and it's an agreement that you have with the prosecutor, it will require court approval. That means the judge has to also sign off on this as well. What you do is you say, look, yes, I am guilty of the crime. I'm pleading guilty, but in exchange for the guilty plea, not going to trial, not trying to fight anything, the DA has offered me a deferred sentence, and if the judge accepts it, what it says is, look, for a period of a year or 3 years, whatever that length of time will be, I'm going to be like a Boy Scout here. I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm not going to get into any trouble.
I learned from my previous mistake, Your Honor.
Yes, I am. You can trust me with the keys to the car, and it's a different situation because you're also going to have points on your license, and you're going to not have the keys to the car. But you get what I'm saying. And so the probation department's going to monitor you. You're probably with the DUI, you're going to have alcohol checks. You're going to have a number of things that you have to check in and do. You'll probably have to do community service as part of that too. But at the end of it, if you complete it, everybody says, yeah, you did right, everything was fine. Then the sentence is not on your record. There is no conviction. Your guilty plea is withdrawn. Now, it still exists on an arrest record. It will still show up in the record of the court proceedings. There will not be a conviction on your record, but the DUI will show up still on not the conviction, but the ticket for the DUI may still show up on your motor vehicle record. Those things stick around for a long time. Now, you can try to get it just dismissed too. I mean, I think that is always the best course of action if you're trying to avoid the consequences of being pulled over and ticketed or arrested for a DUI. So
there's a difference between dropped and dismissed?
Dropped and dismissed, I think, are kind of the same thing. Okay. There's a difference between drop, dismiss on one side and then a deferred sentence on another. A lot of Ds. And then there's diversion, which is a totally separate thing. But if you've got the case totally dropped, that means, the arrest record is still there. But then there is no need to enter a conditional guilty plea. There is no deferred sentence. You have no penalties. In that sense, it was just truly dropped. So then the question is, what happens with the DMV? Do they get rid of that charge right away? Now, and that's a good question. I think I'm thinking of it purely from the criminal side. on a DMV record, when you have a DUI, obviously if you actually have the conviction of DUI, it's on there for 10 years probably. And before they really start to float these things off, and then you lose the points. I think you lose the 12 points right away. That means you lose your license.
A lot of jobs. We've had plenty of people apply for jobs here, get the job, and they're like, oh, I had a DUI 6 years ago. It's like, sorry.
Yeah, and then that's going to show up. Like when you have the DUI, in that sense, it's going to show up in both the criminal record and a DMV search as well. So, yeah, I think
where's the process start then? Do you need to ask for it to be dropped to begin with? So is there a chance for Rob then to get this officially dropped now?
The first thing to do is to get a DUI defense attorney, because if you can get it dropped, then things can really clean up for you too. I think you can get that dismissed from your MVR, because it's not like it's like there were. What you're essentially showing is there wasn't enough evidence to show that you really did have a DUI. It's like you're going to get in trouble for that. So those points do go away in that sense. But getting it dismissed is always the best course of action, because then there is, then you can get, like, you just say, like, yeah, the arrest record is going to be there for these things. But if you can get it dismissed, that is always the best course of action. By the way, not easy to do, nor is getting a deferred sentence an easy thing to get a DA to agree to. It's usually one of those things that is only offered for first-time offenders, for certain small offenses.
And no other problems on your record. You never had any. This is the first time you ever really even dealt with being pulled over.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too, even with a deferred sentence. If you are pulled over and you are charged with a subsequent DUI, the fact that you had a deferred sentence that was just, like the guilty plea went away, they can use that to show that you have priors from a DUI perspective. So the sentencing component for your second DUI may be aggravated or amplified, because of that.
It makes sense, because if they just washed away and you suddenly show up with another DUI, it's my first, Your Honor.
It's not your first. You've been doing this before.
That's easy to do. All right, well, cool. Rob? Hopefully. That's your playoff music. If you get too long. I stole that from the Oscars.
I haven't taken my mom yet.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Yeah, we use private investigators all the time.
Really?
When I was a kid, my dream, first of all, I wanted to be Johnny Carson. I wanted to have my own late-night talk show.
I'll be your sidekick.
I will take the Staples. That is I love Johnny Carson.
Staples, yes.
So the other thing I really wanted to do is be a private eye. I wanted to be a detective. Not with the police department. I know I would start with the police department, then I wanted to go into private practice and be like, Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot.
Ford Fairlane, Dice Clay's character is from the movie Ford Fairlane. Oh, yeah. Rock and roll detective.
That's right. That's right. Rock and roll lawyer, rock and roll detective.
Killed Vince Neil. That'd be so cool.
God, that would be. I got to see that movie again.
No, you don't. I know. Doesn't hold up, but
okay, that's what it's like. It's like Bugsy. Anyway, there's another story for that. Private eyes. It's private detective. I mean, I don't really know that they call them private detectives much anymore. Like they do in the books, but I mean, a private investigator is usually somebody with a kind of a law enforcement background who is just very good at using resources. Sometimes they will have access to some of the databases still. They've got friends on the force. Mm-hmm. You can track people down. There are, anymore now, we live in such a digital world where, the former, this is a former tenant who just skipped out and didn't pay.
Old roommate.
An old roommate.
So even worse, he paid, basically, I'm sure this guy paid all the bills. And now he's like, man, what a jerk.
Okay. And he's disappeared. The guy has a digital footprint. I've seen this. You can't really go off the grid.
Right.
So there are definitely tools.
That's what makes me surprised that the private eye is still a thing, because most people can just, do a few Google searches to check out a couple Facebooks, and you can probably track them down that way. But so where does he start?
Well, I mean, look at any of the, start with your name, start with, honestly, social media, Facebook, Instagram, mutual friends. How did you find this guy in the first place? Did you post an ad? You can get kind of devious too. You can get, and my daughter's going to like this, truly devious. I'm reading, she's reading these books. She's a young adult. She's 13. She's reading young adult novels, and she's got me reading one called Truly Devious. And if you've read it, you'll know it's a good book, actually. So here I am reading young adult literature at night, and literature is it's good, but it involves a detective, a young woman who wants to be a detective. So in this one, you can get truly devious here and try to post a new you post something that you think would attract this person, like bring a honey, like bring bear to a honey trap here.
Honey pot that guy.
No, but hiring a private investigator, you can Google some, you can find some. Skip tracing is typically the word that we use for that, because you want to find somebody, trace somebody, track somebody who's skipped town.
So in-house there at McDivitt Law, where do you guys start? Do you start just with quick in-house Google and stuff like that? And then if you still can't track anything down, do you move on to someone you work with regularly?
We'll start with that. Yeah, we have resources, too, with connections that we have. We're very good at finding people.
Yeah, I bet.
Very good at finding people.
Really, in this day and age, it's almost impossible to hide, unless you're part of some kind of a government program.
Yeah, but the minute you say it, though, there are people who do a good job. They can't go off the grid, but they do a good job of not being found and not being there when we want somebody to find them. So what we have to do every time we file a lawsuit, for example, we have to actually serve, and you have to personally serve a document. And that's the other thing, too. Like, if the guy were still there, living there, you can get an eviction, you can get a sheriff to serve an eviction notice. You can have a private investigator also serve documents too, but it all relies on being able to find the person. So start with social media, Google searches, phone records. It's really difficult to use some of the databases without that person's permission. Like, you want to look up their credit reports, things like that, which will have their address or last known address. But there are tools to do it, but a private investigator would be the fastest. It won't be the cheapest, but they can be reasonable too. You have to find out if it's worth it. Like, how much is the unpaid rent too? Is it worth buying the time of a private investigator to track down, the Maltese Falcon?
Well, that was going to be the second. I know you didn't ask this, but then let's say he finds Doug, who stiffed him for $4 or $5 grand and rents over a year, and he finds him. What's the chance of him actually pulling this guy into court and getting anything from the guy?
Well, once you're served, what is it you're being served? Are you being served a court document? That's different than just finding the guy in the PI, private eye, knocking on the door and saying, hey, you owe Bob $500 in unpaid rent. Like, it's one thing for me to tell you, Ross, you owe me money. It's another to distill it down to a judgment, or to even be able to bring you into court so that we can argue over whether you owe me that money and how much you owe me. So right now it sounds like this guy just has a tenant, a roommate who left out, didn't finish paying him. He wants to track him down. And what's the impact of that knock on the door going to be? Is it going to be the private eye saying, hey, you owe, what's our guy's name? Brett?
Brett. Yeah.
You owe Brett money. You got to pay Brett money. And the guy's going to say, well,
Brett owed me money.
Brett owed me money. Do you know what? I did all this work around his house. I cleaned his carpets. I did all of these things.
Said. It comes down to, unfortunately, which a lot of these things lead to. It's a price point issue. Is it worth the money? How much money?
How much are you going to spend? Yeah. If you by the way, the David McDivitt Private Eye business that I just opened up 10 seconds ago, we charge a lot per hour to track somebody down, but we're good.
They're good.
We are good.
They've been established.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
None of us want to be in a situation where we are inconvenienced when we go home. Like, if we're going to have neighbors, we want to have good relationships with our neighbors. We want good neighbors. It's like your family. You can't pick your family. You can't pick your neighbors. You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your neighbors. And I think if you got a neighbor who's not good to their puppies, what can you do?
What can you do? And it's funny, too, because, dogs to some people are just, they're just work animals. Like I had a neighbor that had a beautiful dog, but he left it outside all the time because it was a German Shepherd, and he wanted to protect the yard and bark when people came by and stuff like that, and he didn't bring it in the house. And my wife was like, I can't believe he's treating the dog that way. It's like, that's some people use dogs like that. Life. I grew up in Alaska. A lot of working dogs there. A lot of the dogs are simply sled dogs. And they stay chained to a small, 5-foot chain, and they have nothing but a little house to crawl in, but then they also run daily pulling sleds, which is what they're built for.
That's what they're built for. I had when I was growing up, I had 5 Bichon Frisés, and I used to chain them to my sled.
Underage Bichon!
And make them pull me to 5th grade. I trained one of them to go get me soda from the fridge. I'm kidding. I didn't. By the way, if anybody's listening, I did have a Bichon Frisé. He was lovely.
It didn't pull your sled, though, huh?
No, he didn't. But he was the cuddliest. Oh my gosh, DC stood for Dominic Charlie. I miss that dog.
So everyone treats their dogs differently, first and foremost. I mean, our dogs live a great life. Like I always talk about, if I come back as a dog, I'd love to, but it's got to be like one of my dogs because they live a pretty good life.
You take good care of your dogs.
Pretty good life.
Yeah.
So here's a story. This is from Citizen David. Our neighbor got a Christmas puppy. So now they leave the 6-month-old baby outside with little or no interaction for hours on end. It's really sad. I wonder, can I confront them, offer to adopt? We have 3 puppies of our own, and it's difficult to even look outside and not notice this neglected pup. It happens that, the shine wears off. It's like, all right, let's lock the puppy up outside.
Yeah.
So he just wants a better life for this, and he gives the address. I'm going to throw that out there. So obviously, you can definitely hit him up and say, hey, listen, I know it seems like you've lost your love for little Scratchy. Can I adopt him? Start there, but there's nothing, legally speaking, you can do, right? Unless the dog is being abused.
Yeah, you as a neighbor really are limited in what you can do here. But it's you have the same recourse that you would if you heard something that was maybe like some domestic violence that was taking place in the house next door. It's not your place to go and interfere physically. That's the law enforcement. So contact authorities. And I'm going to give the same advice here. You can contact the animal law enforcement. And I'm assuming we're here in El Paso County, but the El Paso County Humane Society has information on their website explaining who to call. Don't delay. If there really does seem to be some abuse, call. They'll investigate. Now, that said, I am not frankly sure that leaving your dog outside during the day, especially if it's not just horrible weather, is going to rise to the level of cruelty. Now, maybe it does. And this is not me personally saying I would do that. I want to be very clear here. So there maybe is a window, like you said, Ross, to reach out to your neighbor and say, listen, we've got several puppies. We're looking for a 4th. We see that you've got a dog outside a lot. And I'm just wondering, would you be open to us maybe during the day having the puppy come over, spending some time with us? Because if you really want to adopt that dog, that's the commitment you would have to make anyways. That dog would have to be in your house during the day. Is there something we can do to kind of ease it in, socialize your dog to our dogs and say, look, I know you want the dog back at the end of the evening. That's great. And then maybe like, hey, listen, we love this. We're falling in love with this dog. Could we buy him?
Dude, you're honeypotting.
Again,
you're a honeypotter.
Yeah, if I'm nothing if not a honeypot.
Good.
I'll tell you that.
Well, that's a great way to do it, especially the intro. Just like, hey, we're looking for a new dog. Our dogs want to play.
They hear your dog and they just, I can hear them like sniffing at the fence. They want your dog comes over and sniffs at our fence. Like I think these dogs want to get to know each other.
And at the very least, maybe Dave, you're not going to be able to take this dog from them, but your interest may rekindle their interest in the dog. It's one of those things. It's like, wait, someone else loves her? I love her. Yeah, I love her more than that.
Exactly.
That mental thing that every human is broken with.
That's right. That's what social media is designed to do, is to remind you of all the great things you have. I'm kidding, because social media is all about reminding you all of the great things somebody else has. But yeah, if you all of a sudden, it's that like you want what you can't have, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, other people, or you want the thing that is desirable. And if right now that puppy is desired by the neighbors, well, maybe you want that puppy.
Oh, that's a lot of. You must be a father of some small children with that child psychology degree.
Yeah, we dealt with a situation with a puppy where it became too much for our household. Kisses was her name. She was darling, but the kids were struggling with her size. She got bigger than we anticipated, and I didn't have the help at home to help take care of her. And I was bringing her to a doggy daycare during the day, so she had somebody to play with, like she had other dogs to play with. And we had to find a new home for her because it wasn't fair to her to be in an environment where as the kids got bigger, because I have been doing this by myself with parenting, I had to have child support at home too. And at that point, the nannies had their hands full. It just got to a point where when we got the dog, we had a different person helping us with child support. Not child, but child care. Yeah. And she was very good with the dog, and I was too. But if I'm working all of the time and the nannies are at home and they're not able to help out with the dog, they're good nannies. It's just it was the wrong environment for that dog. The dog is now on like a bunch of acres and is like very happy. And the best thing that could happen to that dog was to find that new family. Mm-hmm. But it was heartbreaking for us because we did love Kisses, but we just couldn't provide for Kisses what she needed. And that is, it's true.
That's the story of Kisses the dog, everyone.
Kisses the dog.
That's a great name. Yeah, so you don't know. Your interaction may change the outcome here. If you find yourself with abused dog situation, you always contact the Humane Society. They do welfare checks.
Yeah, what's the number here?
But again, don't start there because obviously Interaction first is always the best way to do it. If you escalate to that right away, it's going to get bad. Get real bad.
The animal law enforcement information is on the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak Region's page.
Cool. It's hsppr.org.
Yep.
Their website. So we have Cody, and actually I'll make note to talk about that tomorrow with him with our pet of the week here at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
And that's going to cover Pueblo too, Douglas County. Like it's not just El Paso County.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
In 2012, during my break, I had accessed my Yahoo homepage email, clicked on a link. Screen immediately went blank with an error message saying the page you were attempting to view is blocked. Nothing too much. I finished checking my emails, went back to work. Next day, my computer was taken.
It's totally confiscated.
By them on post, and he was accused of accessing porn sites. He denied ever going to a site, explained what happened, and he was given two options by his employer: resign or get fired. And basically, they did both the same day. He resigned, and then he was let go.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Right? No, you're fired. No, I quit.
No, I quit first. Those words came out before you said it.
I quit. You're fired. Oh, you beat me.
Rock, paper, scissors. I'm fired. I mean, you quit.
So only to find out about a week later, the final investigation revealed that the link that I clicked was hijacked, and there was no fault of my own. So lost his job really for no reason, but then attempted to apply for the job through the same employer. Roughly 6 years later, was told by the local office he was not eligible because of the situation in 2012. He called the headquarter office, was told he was allowed to apply without restrictions. The manager at the time investigated a contact, and he goes on and says, there's basically finger pointing on whether or not he can get reinstated. So 13 years later, I tried again through an online application that went through successfully, but I'm being told the same story from the local office. You can't do it, and then the national office says he can do it. Is there anything that can be done, Mr. McDivitt?
I don't think I'm going to give Gary a satisfactory answer. And I don't mean I'm saying I'm going to give him the wrong answer. I just don't know that's going to make him happy. I don't know that there is at this point. There may be, though, but I don't know because now we're talking about something that happened 13 years ago.
That's what I was thinking, too. So, he should have made some kind of a move right when he found out that he was fired, yet he was not on the hook for that link. There is when he should have acted, right?
Yeah. When he went to bigpuppies.com, and it was blocked.
Allegedly.
And he was just trying to find a new dog for his house, and that's why he went to bigpuppies.com. Here's what I would have, if we could go back in time, I would advise him, like, look, there may be an administrative hearing process you can go through, the Division of Labor, like somebody, if it's a government contract with the federal government, there may be an administrative process you can go through to at least have your record clear. They may just they can maybe make a unilateral decision they don't want to employ you anymore.
But it's start over.
But yeah, what you want is for that to have been truly cleared up. Now, 13 years later, if you're on a do not hire list for one company, that's a heck of a lot better than being on a do not hire list for like a whole panoply of companies. So hopefully that this isn't carrying over to other employment, and maybe you just have to realize that you're just not going to get a job at this company.
We don't know contracting on a military basis. You have to have clearance to begin with.
Exactly. That's the thing. And is it keeping him from getting other contract jobs, like federal government contractor jobs? I don't know, and I am not qualified, frankly, to give the right kind of advice on federal contract employment related issues. 13 years is a long time to wait to resolve this issue.
The average statute of limitations about 7 years on
unemployment release. Well, I mean, look, I live in the world of negligence, tort, and usually 2 years is
wow.
Now, car crashes, things like that. It's 3 years, but 2 years for a lot of those civil claims. 1 year in some instances, 6 months in others. Yes, but no, when it comes to employment related claims here, he's got a potential claim for wrongful termination, or he had one. So what's the statute on that? But also, did they have a right to just unilaterally let him go because they decided, we don't even want somebody who's going to those links anyway. That might not have been a porn link, but I mean, this is, every time, I go to a website, I am just always hoping that it doesn't redirect me to a porn site.
Really? I'm the opposite. I'm hoping it redirects me. I'm praying for it.
Wait, what? What, Ross?
Now, in his defense, though, and I've talked about this years ago, long ago, my email was through MSN.com.
Not Prodigy.
Not Prodigy.
CompuServe.
So sometimes you would get a little quick when it comes to typing, and I would accidentally type in man.com. Okay. That was a fairly hardcore gay men website. I don't know if it still is, if you want to dare do that, but so several times in my young life, like that. I mean, I don't enjoy checking email in the first place, but that's even more alarming.
This is why Ross's early employers were always letting him go, because he kept
man.com.
He would go to Ross Ford at man.com.
Well, it happens sometimes.
Listen,
in your defense, dude, I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry, because it's
man.com. Woo! Taking me back. I need to go suck my thumb in the corner.
This is why it's really interesting. I was thinking about you sucking your thumb in the corner. Sorry, I got distracted. This is why you start seeing people going through private VPNs. You got to watch this. Even if you're an employer, keep in mind your employees may be using a private VPN. They get on the internet to try to redirect so they can look at these sites that you might otherwise block as an employer. I mean, you've got to have really robust policies to make sure they're not using company time, company equipment to look at sites that don't align with your values as an organization. Like you can have your moral compass can point you this way, but your business points you that way. But you need to have policies that point you like the right way, both legally and what aligns with your core values. If you are an adult film business, you probably don't have a lot of firewalls set up to keep people from going.
You're blocking the weather.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like, Doug, stop checking the weather. You're supposed to be curating man.com.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got to put more posts up. Where's that video you promised me, Ross?
Greasy.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.